In this video, we're going to see how LDRA tool suite can be used with Andes technology environment, which includes the AndeSight IDE with underscore A25 series of processor. We're going to see in detail how we can actually use the static analysis, dynamic analysis, unit testing feature with the Andes environment. To start with, we need to make sure that we open the example projects which are delivered along with the tool suite, and we need to make sure that we can compile these projects using the Andes environment. So I'm going to invoke the AndeSight IDE where my projects are located. So I'm just opening the project from the appropriate work area location. Once the project is opened, we can see over here that we have dice, quick brown fox, and safe utility examples over here. I'm just going to clean these projects just to make sure that I can rebuild them. So let me clean them, and I'm going to build the projects. So the main intention is the projects whatever we are going to refer for our unit testing or dynamic analysis, we are just making sure that all my source codes compiles successfully. So we are going to build the safe utility project as well in the same way what we did for the dice. So now the projects are built successfully and we are good to go with the analysis. So let me exit from the AndeSight IDE. I'm going to invoke LDRA launcher, and I'm going to use the build import utility using which I can actually import my project. So I'm going to import my project, the safe utility. So this is the path from where my safe utility project will be taken, and I'm going to run the build command within my build import. So it's going to compile my project and it's going to get the information about the source codes which are part of my project. If there are any include paths, if there are any pre-processed symbols, the tool is going to get those informations as well. We do have options wherein we can actually run the pre-processing phases for all the source files, wherein if there are any additional pre-processor symbols which can be captured. So once we have all the source files and the dependency of the project captured, we can actually invoke TBvision from here, and we can ask the tool to run the analysis. So these are the source files which has been picked from the project. So I'm just going to run the static analysis for this. So I'm going to enable the 4 phases and I'm going to run the main static analysis. Analysis is going on. I'm going to import another project. Okay, right now I'm going to use the dice project, and I'm just going to build the project in the similar way how we did it for the safe utility. So if we come back over here, let me just see whether the analysis has been completed. So it is actually now generating all the reports, and we can see the analysis is completed. So I'm just going to invoke TBvision even for this particular project. So I'm going to close the TBvision for time being, and then I'm going to invoke TBvision for the dice project. So here we can see it has opened the project, and I'm just going to run the static analysis for these dice projects as well. So what the tool is performing is it's actually running this static analysis wherein it's going to verify my source code against appropriate coding standards. Over here we have actually selected MISRA C 2012 as the coding standards. So we can actually cross verify that. You can see here MISRA C 2012 is the one which is going to be referred. So now the static analysis has been completed. So we are now good to go to view the code review results. So we can see the code review results like this, wherein the tool is going to highlight all the violations which has occurred as far as MISRA C 2012 is concerned. You can also see if there are any violations which were excluded earlier, you can even view them. So there are options within the tool wherein you can actually exclude the violations. So you can actually exclude the violations using either the annotations. So we have annotations, so wherein you can add the LDRA exclude annotations to the code, wherein you can actually exclude a specific violation, and you can also give a justification comment to it. In a similar way, we do have an option wherein you can even exclude as appropriate violation using the TBvision UI itself, wherein you can actually exclude and then you can give a justification to that. Okay, I'm not doing that. So I've already done a few justifications for specific violations over here. So if you want to know more about where exactly the violations are occurring in your code, you can actually double click over here. It will directly take you to the source code where exactly the violations are located. You can also see more information about what MISRA rule talks about, where we have detailed explanation about each of the MISRA rules. If you want to know more about the internal rule which has been mapped to MISRA C 2012, you can get more information about that, where you will be able to see detailed explanation with an example which will give you more information about how to interpret the rules. Alright, so we are now able to see the violations which has been identified by the LDRA tool suite as part of static analysis. We can also ask the tool to generate various reports. One among them would be the MISRA compliance report. For that, I'm just going to my TB reports, and I'm going to ask the tool to generate the MISRA tool suite generated guidelines compliance summary report. So here we can see that we have all the MISRA directives and rules, and we can see whether the code is compliant or not. We can see is it compliant or if there are any violations and so on. So you can also see there are even highlighting which shows in yellow as well as in red. So the yellow indicates it's advisory violation, whereas the other one is basically the required violation. So it's going to give you information regarding all the MISRA violations which has occurred in your code. You can also see the standard model exclusion overview report, which is going to give you information regarding what are the MISRA rules which you have masked either through the annotations or through the TBvision UI. So you can see there are two justifications what I have given. So there are around 4 violations which has been excluded as part of my project. So this way you can see the exclusion report as well. So let me just close this and go further. So you can see various reports which includes graphical reports like call diagram, which is again going to give you information regarding what are the functions in my source code and how are they dependent to each other. We can also ask the tool to bring in the flow diagram. This is again going to give us information regarding what are the branches which are part of my application. Here you can see I have integer to ASCII function, and this is how the branches occurs. I can zoom in and you can see what are the conditions, okay, which are part of my code. You can see the block of a code which corresponds with a particular path as well. Alright, with this, let's move towards the dynamic analysis, where we are going to create some test cases. We are going to execute those test cases and we are going to see the results as well. So for that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to invoke my safe utility example, and I'm just going to invoke TBrun interactively for this particular project. This is TBrun, using which you can actually create your test cases, execute your test cases and so on. So I'm just going to create a sequence. So you can name the sequence based on the naming conventions you want. I'm going to put it into white box mode, and I'm going to select the safe string source file, and I'm going to set my scenario as gray box mode, and I'm going to click on continue. So here my function under test is safe string length. So this is the function which I'm going to test it. So I'm going to create a test case for this. The tool is going to run few analysis before it allows us to create the appropriate test cases. Now you can see like it is creating a test case for me. I can actually feed the inputs for my test case. So I'm going to feed a string over here, test, and the size of a string is basically 4. So this function is going to return the length of the string. Okay, so with this I'm just going to ask TBrun to go ahead and then execute my test case. So what it does is it's going to compile the hardness code along with the test case using the Andes compiler, and it's going to load it onto the simulator, and it's going to execute on the simulator, and then it's going to capture the results. So it's going to capture all the data what is part of the test case execution, and then the captured data is going to be processed, and then we are going to see the results. So right now the TBrun is giving us information that the test case has been passed. So let me click OK, and the tool is now going to further process the data. Why? Because we are in the gray box mode, light gray box mode, wherein we'll be able to see the coverage information as well. So here we can see like we got 100% statement coverage, 80% branch or decision coverage. So we can actually go ahead and then have a look at the flow diagram, where we can see which part of the code has been covered. We can see like all the sections of the code has been covered, whereas this particular branch, the false statement has not been executed. So we can actually create multiple test cases, and then we can actually pass appropriate conditions for it, such that we can actually hit 100% coverage. So we need to provide appropriate data for each test cases to hit the appropriate conditions to get the 100% coverage. I have a few test cases with me. I'm going to import those test cases. So I am going to import few of my test cases, which are again part of my safe utility example. So I'm going to import those test cases, and I can go ahead and then execute those test cases as well. So this way you can import your test cases and you can execute those test cases, and you can see the test case results. So over here, like I have around 4 test cases where I have given appropriate inputs to those test cases, and then the test case has been completed. So you can see here like with the 4 test cases, I'm able to get 100% coverage for statement, branch, and MCDC for this function called safe compress. So I can ask the tool to go ahead and then now generate the dynamic coverage report. So this is the safe compress. So this is the statement coverage report, and if I just scroll down, I'll be able to see the branch coverage report, and I do get the MCDC coverage report also over here. So this is how the tool is going to generate the coverage report when you are going to execute your test cases in white box mode. In a similar way, I can actually import various other test cases, and I can execute those test cases, and I can see the results. There are various reports what we can actually see as part of my test execution. So we have seen the coverage report. So we have seen the code coverage report. This is the code coverage report what we have seen. In a similar way, we do generate the function coverage, call coverage, which are required specifically if you are following ISO 26262, specifically for the integration testing. And we do generate the MCDC test case planner. So referring the MCDC test case planner, the developer or the tester can go ahead and then create test cases in TBrun, and then he can actually execute those test cases. Alright. In a similar way, we do generate various other reports like the ISO 2626 compliance report, data coupling report, control coupling report, and various other reports. You can also see the test summary report, which is going to give you how many test cases we had created overall, how many sequences were there, and how many test cases were there in that particular sequences. You can see this is the regression report where we can see all the test cases which are part of my sequence, where I can see the test case details, whether the test case will pass or fail, and so on. Alright, in a similar way, I can see the test case coverage summary, where it's going to give me information regarding all the test cases which are part of my specific sequences and whether the test cases will pass or fail. Alright, so that's about the LDRA capabilities with the Andes environment. So I would like to wrap it up. What we are doing is we are actually performing unit and integration testing using the Andes environment, where the test cases are going to be compiled and executed on the Andes A25 simulator, which is available with the Andes environment. That's it. Thank you for your patient listening.